Good afternoon, wherever you're listening from, and you're welcome to the Business of Africa, where we discuss exactly that, the business of Africa. Africa and the fourth industrial revolution is a major topic that we should look into. And today we have with us Tumi Nkosi, Director of Executive Education and Programs at the Johannesburg Business School. Welcome, Tumi.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Femi. I look forward to our conversation.
Thank you very much, Tumi, for joining us. Quickly to the first question. The fourth industrial revolution, it's a trend word over there. It's a buzzword in the office, in the boardroom, and economic conferences. Tell us, Tumi, what is it and why should we be concerned about the fourth industrial revolution?
Thank you so much for having me, Femi. So the fourth industrial revolution at its basic meaning is a fusion of technologies that almost blurs the limits between what is physical, what is digital, and our own biology. You can almost call it as the rise of cyber physical systems that is driving what we call a digital first economy, which is the economy that we are going towards as a result of our fourth industrial revolution. And this technologies, there's a large myriad of technologies, and it's not just one or two technologies. If you look at just a couple of this, and I'll take you through a few: artificial intelligence, robotics, Internet of Things, autonomous vehicles, nanotechnology, biotechnology, energy storage, material science, quantum computing, and all of those. Then you quickly realize that there'll be slim, almost no area of society that will not be impacted by at least one of these technologies. And the reason why we need to take them seriously is exactly that. We are all going to be impacted by these technologies, and we need to start understanding what will be the impact and how are we going to ride the wave of opportunity that is presented by the fourth industrial revolution while mitigating the risk. We should look at what this fourth industrial revolution means for us, particularly from a skills perspective across the African continent, because there's a lot of opportunities in there if we take the right action. And if we don't, there's large risk that we are facing as well. So whether we act or not, the technologies are going to impact us in ways that are unimaginable. The good news is that we still have a window of opportunity to act, particularly from a skills revolution perspective, but we will have to move very quickly because we've got a very slim window of opportunity to move. From a skills perspective, I think that with the first, the second, as well as the third industrial revolution, we were largely left behind. What is really interesting and exciting about the fourth industrial revolution is that it is our one and perhaps maybe only chance in a very long time to sort of equalize the playing field. Because yes, we would need a specific infrastructure. And because we don't have some of the infrastructure that we had with the first, second, and the third revolution, there's an opportunity to build the type of infrastructure that will allow us to leapfrog our way to the front of this particular revolution. I also like that because we were left behind by the first three revolutions, we do not have legacy problems. So we can quickly learn the things that we need to learn for the fourth industrial revolution without doing much unlearning of the skills that we would have otherwise gotten with the first, second, and third revolution. So because we won't need to do much unlearning, then we can start the process of learning and upskilling and reskilling much quicker than somebody who is committed to how they've always been doing things. So therein lies the opportunity for us. The risk lies in our lack of infrastructure, because unfortunately, the third industrial revolution and its infrastructure is what the fourth industrial revolution is building upon. So if we can have an opportunity where we can look at the type of infrastructure that we need as a continent, decide which infrastructure is it that we need for the fourth industrial revolution, do reskilling alongside this infrastructure development, then we wouldn't be left behind at all. Then this will finally be our opportunity to level the playing ground and be a player in the global economy.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Tumi. A lot of stuff that we've not had before that we're learning from you today. Now, the Johannesburg Business School is obviously a trailblazer in creating key learning opportunities for executives in diverse sectors. I mentioned a lot of executives from other parts of Africa coming into Johannesburg Business School to study. So the question is, what initiated this program re-engineering? What gains should an executive fellow expect when he attends this program?
So the good thing with the Johannesburg Business School is that we didn't have to do any re-engineering at all, because the Johannesburg Business School is the latest business school to enter the foray in South Africa. So we are a digital native. So we've had to look at what is going on around us, what are the other business schools saying, and what is missing. And what we picked up was that the issue or the stream of digital transformation and the digitization of business was something that was not at the forefront of what the other business schools were talking about. And we obviously got that idea from our mother body, the University of Johannesburg, because they were focusing on being a university that leads the fourth industrial revolution research and practice. So we then said then the Johannesburg Business School can start taking its place as placing the human at the center of the digital transformation wave. So from the get-go, our focus was on digital transformation. And of course, you cannot talk about digital transformation as a business school without looking at your audience. And our audience are business people that are currently working. But most importantly, we also look at young people that are entering the market and the ones that are younger before that haven't even entered university. The drive for digital transformation is very important for us, and it's not something that we conceptualized ourselves. If you look at the World Economic Forum in 2020, they released what they termed Digital Revolution of Skills 2030. So, and what it in a sense looks at is, it looks at what will happen if we continue the way that we are as the workforce across the world. What will happen to us when we get to 2030? And what they realized was that a minimum of 1 billion people will likely be displaced because their skills will become obsolete as a result of the digital transformation wave. And what they in turn then decided to do was to upskill and reskill 1 billion people by 2030 in order to avoid large-scale suffering that will be caused by skills obsolescence and therefore people being unable to work. For us in Africa, and particularly in South Africa, it hit a bit of a nerve for me as the director of the Johannesburg Business School, because in South Africa, we're dealing with large-scale unemployment. But what the World Economic Forum is saying is that if we don't take steps right now to upskill and reskill people in the right jobs that will be in demand as a result of digital transformation, then we're going to be dealing with two problems. We're going to be dealing with the problem of unemployment, and that is when you cannot get a job because the market conditions are weak. But if you go somewhere else where they've got better market conditions, then you can get yourself a job. But we're going to be dealing with another problem, that of unemployability. And that's a bigger problem than unemployment, because if you are unemployable, it means the skills that you have are of no use. Nobody can employ you whether the market conditions are good or not. And what I'm saying is that if we are not careful as a continent, and particularly as a country in South Africa, then we're going to be facing even more large-scale issues with unemployment, because we'll be dealing perhaps maybe with unemployment, but increasingly with unemployability. And already we are seeing signs of this, Femi. We're starting to see issues of unemployed graduates, because the universities are obviously teaching skills that the fourth industrial revolution is no longer requiring. And we've also noticed that some of these large technologies are starting to remove degrees, bachelor degrees, from their specs when they are looking for new people to join companies. And they're saying that the universities are not primed to teach the graduates what they need to be taught. So obviously you can clearly see that there is a disconnect between what we're teaching as universities and what the industry wants. And so what the Johannesburg Business School focuses on is the reskilling of people in line with the regulations or the guidelines of the World Economic Forum's Digital Revolution Reskilling 2030.
Wow, thank you very much, Tumi. I think I'm picking from this, from your contribution, reskilling, upskilling, and curricular upskilling. The words are there, like I mentioned earlier. Now let's take a look at Africa as a whole. Where are we in the race to attain fourth industrial revolution status? Are we late to the table? Shouldn't we take this story down to the high schools? Is there a gap? If there is a gap, how can we do better to close this gap?
That is one of my favorite questions because as an African, I think sometimes we are too hard on ourselves. So yes, the first, the second, and the third industrial revolution did not do us much justice. There, I would absolutely agree that with the first and the second, we were left behind. And that was by design of the revolutions because we were a bit behind to build the infrastructure that we needed to build for the first and the second revolution. What is nice is that with the third revolution, we started sort of coming to the party. And that is why you have a large number of Africans with access to mobile technologies. And the fourth industrial revolution obviously creates its own problems because whereas it will require infrastructure as well as skill, I believe that the skills part, we can still turn around quick enough for us to avoid the misfortunes of being left behind. I do want to say that because we are left behind from an infrastructure perspective with the first, second, and third revolutions, the fourth revolution will build on the infrastructure of the first three revolutions. So for you, obviously, to have access to artificial intelligence, you need to have access to electricity so that you can drive the devices from which you will be interacting with artificial intelligence. So at a minimum, we need to have regular and reliable electricity. In my country specifically, I'm sure you know what has been happening with load shedding. So we are not there yet. So we don't have the infrastructure that will allow us to interact productively with these technologies. But there is a bright light, and I would like to see it as a bright light from a skills perspective. Yes, we were left behind from a skills perspective with the first, second, and third industrial revolutions. But the fourth industrial revolution requires us to think differently. So because we are required to think differently and we've been largely left behind, there is an opportunity for us to reskill ourselves very quickly because we don't need to unlearn all those legacy skills from the first, second, and third revolution. So because we don't need to unlearn anything, we'll be much quicker than to relearn all the skills that we need in order for us to thrive in the fourth industrial revolution. That said, we do not have a wide opportunity of action. We need to move very quickly. I like to believe that we've got a very quick and young and dynamic population that is already comfortable with digital technologies. The question would be then, how do we start implementing these skills so that we can ramp up the upskilling, reskilling, and new skilling of the people across the continent? Johannesburg Business School focuses on what I would like to refer to as fast skilling, which is the same as fast food. We design our programs so that by the time that you are done, there is a fourth industrial revolution related skill that you can start implementing almost immediately. We look at things like cloud computing, we look at things like cybersecurity, digital marketing, those sort of things, so that when you exit, you've got a digital revolution skill that you can apply immediately. So when we look at our programs, we don't ask, what are you going to learn? We are asking, what are you going to be able to do after you have gone through these programs? So the focus is on skill and not so much on credentialing, because the fourth industrial revolution will require more and more of us to be able to have the right skills and not so much the right degree.
Wow, thank you very much, Tumi. And looking at the problems you've stated with regards to South Africa, I think I can rightfully say that we have the same issues right here in Nigeria, and the two countries being the largest GDPs in Africa. I think there's a lot the two countries can actually learn from each other with regards to load shedding, with regards to infrastructural development and etc. Now, let's talk about the schools management acceleration program. That's your MAP Plus, I'm right? And other organizational-led programs. Can these programs increase the employability value of executives when they attend? And how does this impact the employment rate of South Africa, for example? Because everything we're talking about for South Africa, we're also going to try and replicate in Nigeria. So when I attend your programs, how does it impact me as an executive in South Africa?
So in South Africa, we face a peculiar problem, and I don't want to just to say that everybody else faces it. So in South Africa, we've got a very bad skills shortage that is driving the unemployment crisis. crisis. The issue in South Africa is not that there are no jobs available. The issue is that we don't have the skill to match the jobs that are available. And those jobs are predominantly in technology, things like cloud computing skills, software development, artificial intelligence, robotics, that sort of thing. So from the technology side, that's where we've got a skills mismatch. But increasingly and quite interestingly, we also have skills shortages in areas, social, behavioral, and non-repetitive tasks, things like leadership, things like the ability to continuously learn, analytical skills, complex problem solving skills, critical thinking, creativity, communication, leadership, those types of skills. And I think the picture that I'm trying to draw here is that there is technology, there is shortage of technology skills, yes, but there's also a shortage of human skills that we will need to be able to do whether or not this technology reaches us, and it will. So what we then focus on as a business school is, if you are a specialist, an artificial intelligence specialist, then we teach the human skills on how to interact with others while you are a specialist in that particular area. What we're also saying is that not everybody is going to be an artificial intelligence scientist. There's absolutely no way, it cannot happen. But we're saying that if you, for example, are in marketing, you're a marketing manager, what will artificial intelligence do for your job and to your job and to your skills? And then how are you going to transform your skills so that they are in line with the demands of the fourth industrial revolution? And that is what we are teaching at the Johannesburg Business School. So the design of our programs is content, obviously, because we all need content, but the larger chunk is towards action learning as well as coaching. Because you'll agree with me, Femi, if you are a marketing manager at your organization and I'm a marketing manager in my organization, the impact of digitization will be completely different, because your particular organization will be at a different place in the digital revolution scale than what mine will be. So we then sit down with you and we individualize a plan as to then how are you going to learn the right skills for you. So it is a very customized approach to executive education, because with digital transformation, it will impact us all differently. So a one-size-fits-all approach to executive education is not going to work, because what we'll ultimately do is that you learn about all these technologies, but you will not implement the knowledge, because we would not have translated for you what these technologies mean for you, number one, and create an action plan as how are you going to relearn the skills that you need in order for those skills to be relevant for you, your job, and the industry within which you are operating. So our web program has got a general content structure, but a large chunk of it is much more customized, much more individualized, so that we can translate all these technological terms into a plan that makes sense for you.
Wow, thank you very much, Tumi. So in other words, as technology advances, so should your skills transformation as an executive. And that's basically what the school can help you attain. Finally, Tumi, it's obvious in some aspects we might be way behind in the industrial revolution race. So what will happen if we don't close this gap?
If we don't close this gap, I believe that we will face a catastrophe. Because then, like I had indicated earlier, we will be dealing with unemployment, and it won't even be a big issue anymore. It will be a small issue, because the majority of our people will have skills that are not relevant, be it here in Africa or across the world. And for me, I like to think of it this way, that one of the things that we need to start doing as a nation is to move away from the concept of jobs, because jobs are linked to unemployment. You sort of wait for somebody to provide you with a job and that's it. What the fourth industrial revolution and the reskilling revolution gives us as an opportunity is to view work as what it is, work. And then if you want to do specific work, for example, marketing management work, then you would need to have specific skills, digital marketing skills, for example. And when you have those digital marketing skills, COVID-19 has shown us that you can work anywhere in the world. So it's not that you can only work at home and then you can go to the office at any time. It's much bigger than that. You can work from home for an office in Chicago, for an office in Lagos, in in Kigali, in Shanghai. If you have the skills, then you can get to the work. And that work can be in Africa, or it can be beyond that. It can be anywhere in the world. And my drive is to allow people to get access to the skills to do the work, not to do a job. And if we don't push this, then we'll find ourselves with a large contingent of population that is unproductive for the African continent and for the world. Whereas if you can impart the skills, then you will have a large contingent of African people who are productive, not just for the African continent, but for the world as well. But we will need to move quickly as organizations in academia, as organizations in corporate and government, because this is such a large risk and also such a large opportunity that there is no one sphere of society that can do it by themselves. We need collective action because the risk is too high, but the opportunities are also so great. We cannot delay the process.
Thank you very much, Tumi. Collective action, and we cannot delay the process. I think this is a conversation narrative that we should be having as Africans with regards to the fourth industrial revolution. Thank you very much, Tumi. It's been an interesting half an hour with you. The time flies by so quickly. Thank you, Tumi.
You are most welcome, and thank you so much for having me on your show.
You're welcome, Tumi. Thank you so much. And that is all we have time for today on the Business of Africa. If to listen to the other episodes and this one in particular, please make sure you follow our social media handles on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Metrics Africa. See you next time. Bye-bye.